All right, today we're diving deep into the core ideas from the psychology of selling. We're going to uncover those hidden forces, the ones that drive every single purchase decision we make.
You've seen this, right? Some people, they can sell just about anything, effortlessly. And then you have others who really struggle, no matter what they do. So what's the deal? What's the real difference? It's a great question. And I'll tell you the answer, it's probably not what you're thinking. Because the secret, it isn't some slick sales tactic or a perfectly memorized script. Nope. It's all about psychology. It's about understanding the human mind. And that's exactly what the book, The Psychology of Selling, gets into. It pulls back the curtain on the psychological triggers that lead to a yes, and it shows us, plain and simple, that selling is never really about products. It's always, always about people. Okay, so let's jump into our first big idea, and it's this. Selling is basically a game of psychology. It's a process that doesn't happen on a spreadsheet or in a logical proposal. Nah, it plays out right in the realm of human emotion. And this quote, this is so powerful. Think about what it's saying. Every single purchasing decision you make starts with an emotion. The logical part of your brain, it just shows up later to write a permission slip for what your heart already decided it wanted. I mean, think about it for a second. Nobody really buys a high-end phone because they're obsessed with its processor speed. No, we buy it for the feeling of being smart, connected, successful. Same with a car. It's not really about the engine specs, is it? It's about that feeling of pride, of security. The real product you're buying, it's always an emotion. Okay, so if we agree that selling is all about emotion, then the next logical step is pretty clear, right? We have to understand the customer's mind, and I mean their deepest desires, not just the needs they talk about on the surface. And according to the book, almost everything we do is driven by these 5 core human desires. So a really effective sales pitch, it doesn't just rattle off a list of features. Instead, it connects the product directly to one of these powerful emotional drivers. The real trick is figuring out which of these deep-seated desires your product actually speaks to. So, what does that actually look like in the real world? Well, instead of saying something like, this course will improve your skills, try this. This course will give you the confidence to absolutely ace every single interview. You feel the difference there? One is selling a feature. The other is selling a feeling. It's selling empowerment. But of course, none of this emotional stuff works if the customer doesn't trust you. Not one bit. Without trust, persuasion is basically impossible. The book makes a huge point about this. You have to sell yourself first. Your credibility, your genuine intentions, that has to come long before you even think about selling a product. So, how do you build this bridge of trust? Well, it really boils down to 3 things. First up, be authentic. Come on, people can smell a commission a mile away. They know when you're just pushing for a sale versus when you genuinely want to help. Second, and this is a big one, listen more than you talk. And finally, be consistent. Make sure your words and your actions always line up. Now, here's a really powerful technique for building that trust almost instantly. It's called mirroring. And listen, this isn't about, creepily mimicking someone. It's about subtly matching their rhythm, their tone of voice, how fast they speak, maybe even their posture. When you do that, their subconscious mind gets a little signal that says, hey, this person is like me. And that creates this immediate sense of comfort and rapport. And hey, this isn't just some feel-good theory. Research actually shows that salespeople who use this kind of subtle mirroring can boost their conversions by 20 to 25%. That's huge. It just goes to show you how much of our communication is happening completely under the radar on a subconscious level. All right, so once you've started building that trust, you can bring in one of the most powerful tools in persuasion, period. Storytelling. You see, facts and figures, they're fine. They speak to our logical brain. But stories go straight to the emotional heart. And as we've already established, that's where the real decisions get made. I love this quote. It just nails it, doesn't it? People don't buy products, they buy stories. When you just state a fact, it's just data. But when you wrap that same fact in a story someone can relate to, suddenly it's memorable, it's emotional, and it's 1,000 times more persuasive.
So what separates a good story from a bad one in this context? Well, here's the golden rule. The customer has to be the hero of the story, not you, not your company, not your product. For example, instead of just listing the benefits of a health supplement, tell a story about someone who was constantly drained and exhausted, but then found this incredible new level of energy. The person listening can't help but put themselves in that hero's shoes.
So when it's done right, a good story does three things perfectly. One, it grabs attention. Our brains are just hardwired for stories. Two, it builds trust because it feels so much more authentic than a sales pitch. And three, most importantly, it awakens the very emotions that are going to drive that decision to buy. All right, this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. How do you actually get to yes? And let's be clear, this isn't about high-pressure tactics. It's about understanding the psychology of how people make decisions and then just making it really, really easy for them to say yes. So let's look at a few powerful psychological triggers that work on us, often without us even realizing it. You've got scarcity, the classic fear of missing out that makes us act fast. Then there's social proof, which is our natural tendency to follow the crowd. And finally, reciprocity, that feeling that we have to give something back when someone gives us something first, even if it's just a free sample. You know, the whole approach to closing a sale has completely shifted. It's not about backing someone into a corner anymore. The real goal is to create an environment where saying yes just feels like the most natural, safest, and smartest next step for them to take. Here is a super simple but incredibly powerful technique. Don't ask a yes or no question, because that just invites them to say no. Instead, offer two yes options. So instead of, do you want to buy it, you ask, would you prefer to start today, or would Monday be better? You see what that does? It shifts their brain from thinking if to thinking when. You're not asking if anymore, you're asking how. And here's one final really powerful tool. After you've presented your offer, be quiet. Just be silent. This confident silence does two amazing things. First, it gives the customer the space they need to actually think and decide. And second, it screams confidence. It shows you completely believe in what you're offering. And let me tell you, that kind of confidence, it's contagious. So let's wrap this all up. If you take away just one thing, let it be this. Successful selling has very little to do with what you say and almost everything to do with how you make the customer feel. It all comes down to understanding emotion, building real trust, and connecting with a good story. And that leaves us with one last question for you to think about. The next time you're trying to sell something, an idea, a product, anything, ask yourself this. Are you just selling the features, or are you selling the feeling and the story that goes with it?